This video is going to explain a little bit on how to basically attach the fishing line style pulleys on a Rostock Kossel. So what I did to sort of make this a little bit easier is I made this little clamp, and the idea is that you pre-wind the pulley and then put the clamp on, and then when you're doing the rest of the when you're running the rest of the line on it, you don't have to worry about the spool unwinding. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one from start to finish so you can follow along. In order to thread this, you have to take one of the screws out. So there's two holes, there's two threading holes on here. So I got to take that out. And then I have quite a bit of spectra, so what I do is for each side I do a length. I pull a length that is 5 Kossels high. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now what you want to do is thread your spool. You basically go in at it at an angle, pops out, and then you thread it back through. There's a little hole, there's a little tunnel that you thread it back through. You can see it coming out the end there. And then you thread it back through that hole, but up. You thread it back through the tunnel, but up, so it comes out there. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull, I'm going to even out the length so that both of these are the same length. Okay. So now they're both the same length. So now we got to basically wind the spool. And the direction is important. So what we're going to do is the side that's closest to the end here gets wound counterclockwise. So what I'm going to do is, it takes about almost 4 revolutions to go half the Rostock height. So I tried doing 5, but had sort of an issue where if, like on here, if it didn't already have a full loop, that sometimes it would wind on the other side, which would be bad. So I'm going to go ahead and wind these 6 times. I'm going to basically keep, this is going to be the top, so I'm gonna do this up. So what I'm going to count as a revolution is, that's 1, right? So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you get to hear me count. And make sure you don't have any, make sure they're even. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other one, but I'm going to do it in a different direction. This is clockwise, so this is the end, and that'll be clockwise. And why that's important is it attaches to one side of the roller, and so it needs to be in the right position. That's 5, and that's 6. Yeah. So now what I do is, when I hold these in place, I put the clamp on. So you can see now the clamp is in place, and sort of you don't have to worry about these winds coming undone. So the next thing you want to do is put your nut and screw back into the spool. I'm going to use the wires coming out of the top, and then I want to rotate this until the flat spot's on the top also, and then I'm going to line that up with the spool so that the two little exits are on the top, and this screw is over the flat spot. So when I cinch it down, it locks into that flat spot. And then I leave a little bit of space in between there, not a whole lot, but maybe 1/16 of an inch. So I'll tighten these, and then when I come back, I'm gonna attach it to the motor mount, and then I'm gonna run the fishing line over the pulleys. So I'll change the camera. All right, so next we're just gonna attach the motor to the motor mounts. I'm using M310s for this with washers. I'm just going to do the top two for now. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is I take a zip tie, put it underneath the roller, because right now the spools are wound appropriately for this to be in its halfway position. So what I'm going to do is basically go this is a standard 600 millimeter height. So I'm going to go 9.5 inches from the bottom of this area here, from this in-stop plate. I'm just going to go 9.5. Doesn't have to be super precise. Cinch this up. To grab onto the Spectra loops, I'm using an M3x10 also. So we want to take the one closest to the base of the motor and loop that. What I'm using up here too, one thing that helps is I'm using an M3x40, which is a little bit longer than I think the 35 that is in the BOM right now. We don't have to make it like super snug. Some people are using like screwdrivers to like pull the loops over the little stud here. I found that kind of annoying, so I just went with a longer screw. I think that's the one that Tri-D printing is going to be including in their kits, is the 40 millimeter for this. So thread it through your the 608 tensioner. I'm using a surgeon loop for these. I find it's easier. It's easiest if you end up using like a slip knot. It's hard to gauge how long this overall thing's going to be. When you do the surgeon knot, it's going to shorten by almost a centimeter or so. So I generally overshoot where I want to go by like a centimeter. And then surgeon loop's actually super easy. You just do a standard, I guess like a knot, and then you just run it through again. And then pull that tight, pull it tight from each of the ends. I'm going to cut off the excess here for that. I'm going to attach this to the little stud that keeps it. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom. I'm going to overshoot it by about a centimeter, maybe a little more. Since we have a longer bolt, we can kind of be conservative, make our lives easier. Do another surgeon's loop. pull it tight on both ends. The whole time the clamp is still on there. If it wasn't, then it would start unraveling. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to stick it over the guy there. And I'm going to start tensioning it. It's a little loose. One thing too, this spectra likes to slip off the top of that bearing, so just make sure it, when it's not tight, it'll slip. So make sure it's in place. Once it's tight, it won't go anywhere. So you can see it's getting kind of tighter. Once it's relatively tight, we can cut the zip tie off, and then we can pull the clamp off at the bottom. So you can see, take the clamp off. So now, now it works. And if you run it up and down a few times, it takes some of the slack out of the pulley. So basically, you want to tighten it, run it back and forth a few times. Tighten it some more. This is where that longer screw comes in handy. Or bolt, I guess. That's pretty tight now. I don't know what the actual tightness these things are all supposed to be, so I'm just going to stop the video there. But fairly painless. I mean, it's not awesome, but easy enough for one person to do. So I hope you enjoy.